Hey, everybody, it's Matt Williams and Kelly O'Keefe from Brand Federation, and we're here with another cold take. Now, today's cold take is a little longer than some of the past cold takes because, as we all know, we're coming into the weekend that is the buzziest weekend of all, the Super Bowl. And Kelly and I were talking earlier and want to have a conversation about the nature of buzz, authentic, organic buzz versus more manufactured buzz. And there have been a lot of conversations around maybe both types of buzz that have been in the culture recently. There's buzz that happens on its own because somebody has an idea that catches on in popular culture. And then I think there's buzz that tends to be built to become buzz. You can call it authentic or organic versus non-organic buzz. How you label these things is a little bit squishy, but it's been interesting to watch some events in the world in the last couple of weeks because I think we have some interesting examples on both sides of that fence.
We do. One of the things that we see in the branding world, agencies more and more trying to create stunts that create buzz. And stunts is a term in the agency industry. If there's anyone watching this who's not from that world, these are sort of ways to trick the public with something that's sexy and interesting or worthy of talking about to get us to talk about a brand and to get us to think about a brand. Some stunts that are created by advertising agencies to promote brands are pretty good. They fit the brand, they feel real and authentic. A lot of them feel very made up, but they all have the impact because these stunts are created for no other reason than to promote a product or a service. They have the impact of making us question what is a real and authentic moment and what isn't. And I think that can be a problem. Now, our buddies at the Martin Agency, great agency, got a lot of attention lately. Matt, it's where you used to be. Love that firm, love the people there. They cooked up one of the best I've ever seen in terms of stunts with Snoop Dogg. He was promoting Solo Stove, and we all know one thing. If you know nothing else about Snoop Dogg, and hopefully you know about his great music and his leadership in the world of hip hop, but you also know that he doesn't mind smoking every now and then.
Every
And
now and then being all the time.
all the time. Yeah. He and Willie Nelson spend a lot of time with smoking products. They created a stunt where they kind of released that Snoop was no longer going to smoke, and he tweeted that out. What he was really talking about, we came to find out, was not that he was going into the Betty Ford Clinic, but he was promoting Solo Stove, a smokeless outdoor stove. It was a really smart, clever brand idea. It didn't work out super well for the CEO of the company who got fired shortly after that. Now, I have to say, he deserved to get fired, and I don't blame Martin for that. He deserved to get fired because he actually thought that the stunt was going to immediately increase sales, and therefore he communicated that the forecasts, the estimates of expected sales should go up as a result of that. That's not going to happen. That's not how stunts work. It's not the Martin Agency's fault that things happen, but it did raise a question, Matt, about are stunts the right path for brands to take?
There's been so much ground covered about the Solo Stove thing. We don't need to rehash a lot of it here, but I think at the root, that was a marketing strategy failure. The failure to surround that with the things that could capitalize on the buzz that could be created if that idea was successful, which it was massively successful, right?
Yes.
I think that's a strategic failure on the part of marketing, but not on the part of creative or the agency for sure. But it leads to a conversation about the difference between stunts or buzz or cultural impact that's kind of dreamt up from the beginning as an idea that's meant to attach a brand to a celebrity and get buzz on Twitter and all the things that the Solo Stove idea did so well, versus another idea that was, I think, a little more accidental. And because it was accidental, felt really authentic because it was really inherent to this brand. And it's what happened with Elmo. Elmo tweeted out last week, just checking in. Elmo's just checking in, wants to see how everybody's doing. And next thing you know,
So
the internet explodes with people saying, honestly, Elmo, I'm not doing so great. And next thing, this whole conversation begins around what I suspect was not meant to become a cultural event the way it did, but a conversation around mental health. And Sesame Workshop, being smart people, jumped on this thing and started prompting more conversations and creating resources around children and parents' mental health. And they're having their CMO and Elmo appearing on morning shows and late night talk shows. And they jumped on the buzz that was created by this in a really, really smart way. And that to me, and I may be wrong about this, Kelly, I don't know what you think, but I think that felt organic. That felt like it was inherent to Elmo. It was completely within his character to check in the way he did on Twitter, and it just touched a nerve. And the authenticity of that I thought was really, really beautiful. And Sesame Workshop capitalized on it and is capitalizing on it really well.
I thought it was amazing. Full disclosure, Sesame Workshop is a past client. I worked with them on their brand positioning. They are a great organization that genuinely cares about children. It was founded by teachers with the intent of using media to make a difference in the lives of children. They continue to do so. That little moment was awesome. It was authentic. It resonated with people. They responded not because they were part of an exercise in buzz or a stunt. They responded because there was genuine sentiment. And I think genuine sentiment, you know, that's something that we crave. We don't crave made up sentiment. Like, I think there was genuine sentiment this week. I got the opportunity to watch the Grammys along with millions of my best friends around the world. And, there was a moment there with Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs. They came together to sing a song that they both had hits on that Tracy wrote over 35 years ago, I believe. She hasn't been in the public eye much lately. In fact, she hasn't performed for over a decade. Here's a country star with an entirely different audience than Tracy Chapman, who loves this song, records it, gets another hit, wins at the Country Music Award, nominated for a Grammy. And he says, you know who I want to sing this with? Tracy Chapman, because she's awesome. And the two of them come out, and at a time of great division in this country, and sometimes that division falls along certain ideological or cultural lines. Here we saw a country star and an indie rock star come together, or folk star, depending on how you'd like to characterize the work of Tracy Chapman, to sing a song that we can all love. And man, again, just like Elmo, the internet exploded, and genuine, honest, caring, interesting sentiment made that happen. Not a stunt, but something real.
Yeah, and even though that example is probably not created to sell a product by a marketer, although maybe Luke Combs's agent was behind it, who knows, right? There is a level of, like you say, genuineness and authenticity to that touches a cultural nerve, and the touching of that nerve feels more real. It feels more genuine. It feels less manipulative than some marketing stunts, which feel like they were cooked up to almost trick you into believing one thing and misdirect you into some other thing that feels like a sales appeal. That's different. And I think it's worth a conversation, because the marketing business is, right or wrong, I think in a lot of ways, rightly, much more focused on doing things and having ideas that put brands at the center of cultural conversations. It makes the responsibility of marketers and their agencies who come up with these ideas, I think, greater, to make sure that those ideas at their best are authentic to things that are inherent in the brand and touching a chord in culture where those two things kind of overlap. And to think strategically about where something inherent or built into your brand can touch culture in a way that's authentic and genuine and real, and get that kind of buzz. And you can surround that effort with the marketing infrastructure that helps you capitalize on it, because you should capitalize on it. But doing it in a way where that overlap is authentic and it doesn't feel manipulative and it doesn't feel overly manufactured is really important. And it's more and more important as more and more marketers start to rely on that kind of cultural impact for their marketing efforts.
And I think the watch out is that the sentiment needs to be authentic, and it needs to be authentic to your brand. Your brand needs to have a reason to be part of that conversation. Otherwise, it's going to feel like another famous CMO firing, Pepsi and Kendall Jenner. We saw an ad created to tap into cultural dialogue, and man, it fell so freaking flat. And Pepsi had no business in that conversation. The way they did the conversation was weird. Kendall Jenner certainly had no business in that conversation.
Oh, come on. She closed the cultural rift by offering that cop a can of Pepsi. I mean, that
Absolutely.
changed everything. Thank God.
It's
I
so
mean,
much better now.
like, how does that happen? Actually, attached to the Elmo stunt, I don't want to leave the Elmo conversation until we can talk about the other thing that happened authentically that was like another head smacker, which was when Larry David on the Today Show decided to walk behind the couch and punch Elmo.
Yeah, that was not pretty.
I think it only proves that this was not planned by a marketing department.
Absolutely. It couldn't have been because no marketing department would have wanted that, I hope. Elmo is talking to children about mental health challenges, and Elmo represents the voice of a child on Sesame Street. He gets abused by an old adult, Larry David. And Larry, you are a jerk for this. I mean, you were already a jerk, but you're really a jerk for this because children watch this, parents watch this, families watch it. It was uncool. And I loved another authentic moment. Former Star Trek star Will Wheaton got online and really called Larry David out for that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he
Okay.
called him out and got a lot of attention for that because some people were just laughing it off, Larry David being Larry David. But in this case, he pointed out that, you know, this is something that really means something and making fun about mental health, making fun about the abuse of others, not so cool.
And I think your point about like if a kid sees that and that's running on morning television, that kid doesn't understand the distinction between Elmo the puppet and Elmo the actual real living thing that that kid loves. And here comes this old dude getting up and starting to beat up Elmo. That's not a good look. These truly organic and authentic stunts can go in very unexpected and interesting places.
He's lucky that Big Bird wasn't there because Big Bird would have kicked his ass.
So anyway, let's talk about the other part of this buzz conversation, and that is that we're walking into the weekend of buzz that marketers dream about every year, which is the Super Bowl weekend. What should we expect from the Super Bowl, or what do we think about how the buzz associated with the Super Bowl has evolved over the recent years?
For over 20 years, I have commented about the Super Bowl advertising festival with national media. And I've got to say that it used to be so exciting because you'd sit in front of the TV to watch a game, and the first thing that you'd see is some commercials starting. And nobody in the world had ever seen these commercials before. They were the best commercials ever created, intended to get us talking the next day, intended to create that kind of buzz that this whole episode is talking about. And the advertising world has found a way to kill that because now we've already seen the ads. They're all pre-released or teasers are pre-released, and we've seen the ads before the Super Bowl. So first of all, it's taken the sizzle out of an event that really should be a first opportunity to see something we've never seen before. I don't know how you do that. I know you're trying to get more leverage out of a ridiculously high investment, but to show something before the competition starts is like telling us who's going to win, and we know it's going to be Kansas City before the Super Bowl starts. We
Well,
don't.
you know it's going to be Kansas City because the whole thing is fixed, right? I mean,
Of course, yeah.
this is a deep state plot.
Taylor Swift has fixed the Super Bowl.
She needs the money. Yeah, so I think it's an interesting point. Like we have a tendency as marketers and maybe as human beings to try to extend these moments of pleasure or business benefit or whatever kind of the positive outcome that we might want from these moments. We're going to pull them and extend them and make them last longer so that we get more of the thing. But in doing that, we have the kind of easily anticipated but unintended consequence of diminishing the impact of the thing, right? Black Friday used to be Friday after Thanksgiving, and now it's gone Wednesday and Tuesday and Monday, and we've kind of taken the air out of the thing. And I think your point about the Super Bowl is really similar, which is we're trying to extend the power of these messages that we spend so much money on by putting them out early and having them last for a week rather than running them once. There's got to be an unintended consequence of having that diminish the impact of those things.
Yeah, I think it dilutes the message. And
Yeah.
speaking of dilution of message, I think that's another trend in the Super Bowl. One of the things that we're going to see a lot of this year are celebrity stars. There's going to be celebrities connected to BMWs and soft drinks and potato chips, everything else that you can imagine. They're A-list celebrities. And the challenge with that, when you have to rest your brand on an association with the celebrity, is that I remember the celebrity the next day, but I don't remember you. A lot of these celebrities are literally outshining the brands that they're associated with. So that people are saying, tell me about the ad with Matthew McConaughey and Buick. Oh, well, let's start with it was a Lincoln ad.
Right.
Um, I think genuine, powerful breakthrough ideas are going to beat celebrities every single time because they can come only from the brand. You're not just borrowing somebody else's brand to get a little attention. Sort of circles back to this whole idea of how do we get attention? How do we get buzz? The brands that win do it in more authentic ways than that.
Now, speaking of borrowed interest, celebrities are classic examples of borrowed interest. And I know that with every client or every conversation I've ever had with a client about an idea that had a celebrity in it, the first conversation is about, people are going to remember him or her and they're not going to attach her to my brand. That's a real problem. It's especially a problem in the Super Bowl, which is a celebrity fest. So you're just remembering A-list people and you're not taking the time to attach them to anything. There's an interesting example that I saw online of a pre-released ad that seems to borrow an idea that the same agency had for another brand in the same category about 15 years ago or so. And it's the Ford ad about Detroit that came out to celebrate the Detroit Lions, who made the amazing run all the way up until the conference championship game, which I know you think, Kelly, tragically lost as a Detroiter
Oh,
yourself.
it was tough to see that.
Tough to see that. But I was cruising around social media looking at some pre-release TV ads, and I saw somebody posting this Ford ad that was this beautiful tribute to Detroit as this gritty, tough place that's going to bounce back and it's proud of making the run. And it was beautifully done. But it had this weird familiarity to me. And it sure felt a hell of a lot like imported from Detroit by Chrysler, which was the incredibly amazing, famous ad that was run,
Astonishing.
what, 10, 15 years ago
Yeah.
uh, by Wyden and Kennedy, the same agency who did the Ford ad. It
Oh,
feels like the same ad to me.
that's just bad. The imported from Detroit ad was genius. Wyden Kennedy really contributed to bringing the Chrysler brand back to life after it had gone bankrupt, not for the first time, but for the second time, and been bailed out by the federal government in disgrace. And instead of running away from its Detroit roots, they ran straight at it and made a beautiful ad with Eminem. Yes, it had a celebrity, but in this case, we talk about relevance. Eminem is
and,
a
and
Detroit
inherent,
native,
right? It's
grew up
built
on
in.
8 Mile. Yeah.
It's who he
Uh,
is. It's who Chrysler is. It's the overlap is great.
it worked perfectly.
Yep.
So it's amazing that the same agency, Wyden and Kennedy, good agency. I know a lot of guys there, they're fine people, but you guys screwed up on this.
They are
No
certainly
question.
one of the best agencies in the world, arguably the best agency in the world. I so want them to give them the benefit of the doubt. They've done world-class advertising work for decades. If somebody knows the story behind this Ford ad and can say, no, 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 you're missing something, please tell me in the comments, because I looked at it and was kind of blown away.
That's unfortunate.
I don't know.
It's tough. I mean, there some people say there are no new ideas in the world, but you sure ought to check the internet first.
check the internet first. All right. So we've talked about buzz. We've talked about the importance of it, cultural impact. We've talked about the interesting difference and heightened responsibility that marketers have to find that authentic overlap between something that's true to their brand and something that's happening in culture and let that kind of take root. We have buzzed about buzz.
It's been a blast. And it all boils down to just one thing, guys. Buzz is good. It's great to get a little buzz for your brand. Make sure it's true sentiment. It fits your brand. It fits the community, and that you're not just cooking up stuff that adds to all of our cynicism about some of these stunts.
So we've buzzed about buzz for 20 minutes. Thanks to everybody for checking us out on a cold take here from Brand Federation. I'm Matt Williams with Kelly O'Keefe. Have a great Super Bowl. Go Chiefs.